Hi everyone, Queeveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going to take a look at the sky from a couple of different locations, and this is something that I regularly do. The sky does look different from different places, but it's easier to get a view of the sky, or it's easier to really change your view of the sky and get a really different view of the sky. It's easier to do that in some locations than it is in others. So, for example, this view is roughly what we'd see from Cork City in Ireland, in the south of Ireland. Here it is if I remove the atmosphere, just so that the stars stand out nice and clearly. We can see Scorpius and Sagittarius there, right on the horizon, barely above the horizon. In fact, parts of the constellation aren't above the horizon. The tail of Scorpius is dipping down under there. We can see the Summer Triangle reasonably high in the sky. It's about halfway up the sky. It's definitely not at the zenith. It's definitely not directly over our heads, although, close, but not quite. So this is what we get to see here in the south of Ireland. And if I were to travel all the way to the north of Ireland, that's past the north of Ireland, that's into the ocean, let's see. I don't even know if there will be a... I scrolled past Athlone there, Bangor. Those are Northern Ireland, which is in the north of the island of Ireland. And I won't get into any more of it than that. Armagh Observatory, good place to go. It's a good place to go in real life, and a good location to use here as a comparison. So you can see we've moved 2 degrees north. We were at 52 degrees north, now we're at 54 degrees north. And as you can see, ever so slightly different. Antares is definitely closer to the horizon there, but not by much. It hasn't sunk under the horizon, and we're still only seeing the top kind of front part of Scorpius. We're not able to see the tail. The Summer Triangle is still there, close to halfway up the sky. It is big, so it does span a large section of the sky. Not quite directly above our heads there either, not quite at the zenith. And if we turn around, there's the plough, there's the North Star. The North Star will be about 2 degrees higher in the sky. If you move 2 degrees closer to the North Pole, it's going to get a little bit higher in the sky because you're getting closer to the north. But that is it. Here in Ireland, that is the best I can do without getting on a boat. This is the most that I can change my sky. We'll return back to the default location, and as you can see, it's a little bit higher off the horizon. We're gaining a star of Sagittarius there. We're seeing a little bit more of the galactic core, but really not that much. Now, if we compare, for example, over here, the United States is kind of wide compared to tall. Same with Russia over here, but they are still both taller than Ireland. So if we head up towards the Great Lakes, hopefully I'm on the United States side of the Great Lakes there. I don't want to over-exaggerate the differences. We'll stick the sun back down. And here we are. Now, this is the northern part of the United States, about as far north as you can go without crossing, without going to Alaska, without crossing into Canada or going to Alaska. And you can see here, there's a lot more of the tail of Scorpius visible. We're seeing under Sagittarius, and we are seeing a bit more of the galactic core or nucleus. The most northern part of the United States, other than Alaska, is still further south than the south of Ireland, Cork City. So you are seeing a little bit more of the area low to the horizon there. That means in the morning you would see the planets just a little bit easier, particularly Jupiter at the moment. It's still quite close to the sunrise. Now, if you were to be in the north of the United States with this as your sky, and you hopped in a car and drove all the way down to the south, and I know it's not quite that easy. Driving such a long distance itself is pretty taxing, but there we should be pretty far into the south of the United States. I know it goes down to, around there. So if we now look at the sky, Sagittarius and Scorpius are way up there. We're seeing the whole tail of the Scorpion really perfectly. If I bring up the lines, you can see we've got the whole of both of those constellations, and we're even starting to see constellations that will be out of view from the northern United States. We're seeing pretty much the whole core or nucleus of the galaxy. Over on this side, it will start tailing away into the arm of the galaxy again. We can see that there. So we're seeing a bit more, quite a bit more in comparison to the difference that we'd get here in Ireland. Now, other locations will also give you a good opportunity to do stuff like this. So if I can get close to that would be Peru. I think I'll need to go a little bit lower to hit the top of Chile. It's hard to tell, of course, when the map doesn't have lines for the countries delimiting where they should be. But around here would be around the top of Chile, and of course it extends all the way to the bottom. So this is in the southern hemisphere, so already we're going to have a very different view of the sky, and we're so much closer to the equator that we can see the whole core of the Milky Way, like that. Let's bring the Milky Way just a little bit closer to the center of our sky. Oh, that's definitely not what I meant to do. Let's bring we're going to bring the core of the Milky Way a little bit closer to the center of the sky. Yeah, that will have to do. Close to passing through the south, but not exactly. We can see the large and small Magellanic Clouds there, which will be renamed, I am told, eventually. There we have Sagittarius and Scorpius really, really high in the sky. I think that might be the southern crown there. It looks like a laurel wreath. Yeah, Corona Australis. So it is the southern crown. We've got Corona Borealis up here, the northern crown, of course, where there's going to be that supernova, hopefully in the very near future. It should be coming up, hopefully by September. But here we go. Pretty much, very close to the equator, if not at the equator. And we're seeing this lovely view of the core of our galaxy. We can see one arm stretching down that way and the other arm stretching across there. Still have the summer triangle in the sky. It's a very interesting view, and this kind of view is easier to achieve in places like Chile simply because of the mountains and the forests, the lack of light pollution, areas where there isn't much cities, there aren't too many lights, there aren't too many buildings. Of course, high up in the mountains, it's tough to build large things that create a lot of light. It's difficult to build a large city high up in the mountains. It's easier to do those things lower down on slopes. So in regions where you do have a lot of mountains, not only will they give you a good view of the sky because there shouldn't be too many buildings around, but they're also quite high. You might get a slightly clearer view of the sky, especially if you're above some of the clouds. And the mountains can act almost like shields, blocking light from neighboring cities. So even if you are down in a valley surrounded by mountains, drop all the way down to the bottom, down to Tierra del Fuego, down at the very bottom of the South American continent. And from way down here, whole different view again. Where after losing some of the more northern constellations, they look upside down now, and we will be seeing the Milky Way. If I get the Milky Way pretty high in the sky, that's 6 o'clock in the morning, so we'll keep moving backwards closer to midnight. There we go. That we're seeing the core of the Milky Way practically in the north, and we've got Scorpius there upside down compared to what we're used to. Same with Sagittarius, and we're seeing the other arm of the Milky Way. So that's quite a jump. We're seeing a lot more of the other arm of the Milky Way. The large and small Magellanic Clouds are a lot higher in the sky. I believe we've lost most of the summer triangle, not all of it, but we're only seeing Altair. Deneb and Vega are way under the horizon from this view. That is what difference you can get by going from, of course, if you're willing to travel between different countries, if you're willing to cross state or national lines, if you're willing to go international, then of course you can get an even more extreme view. You get really, really big differences in what's visible in the sky if you're willing to travel far enough, especially as you cross the equator. You'll get very, very different stars suddenly coming into view. But if you are in a big country, especially a tall country, Brazil would also be a good example of a tall country that'll give you a much greater change in view than, for example, in a longer country like Russia. And I know Russia is quite tall as well, but for example, if you were over here, I'm pretty sure that's across the border into Russia. Hard to tell, again, with a map like this, I can't zoom in on it. But for example, if you were here, we'll get the sun out of the sky again and get the Milky Way up to the south, because that region of the sky is useful for comparing your the change in view, how much of the Milky Way becomes visible. So we're seeing Sagittarius and Scorpius there, reasonably low to the horizon. I think I went, is that 54 degrees? Yeah. I went pretty close to our latitude here in Ireland, so we can see the sky there. If we travel the whole breadth of the country, way over there, we'll go over to one of the peninsulas. Yeah, Kamchatka Peninsula by the looks of it. And of course, the time zone changes, so we'll need to move all the way back into nighttime. The Milky Way will come up again, and it's basically the same because we haven't changed our latitude, we've only changed our longitude. Yes, and the longitude changes, they don't change what's in the sky half as much. So it is really the up-down travel that you need to do from north to south, especially crossing the equator. That's what you need to do if you want to get a very different view of the sky. And if you live somewhere where you can drive that distance, then, or, get a bus or some other form of travel if there's a train, anything like that, it's something to take advantage of. You can see the sky looking quite different just by traveling within your own country. Having to get on a plane or a boat makes that more difficult. Crossing across boundaries makes that more difficult. So if you are in a tall country, it's something you can take advantage of, and I encourage you to do so. And even if you don't, now you've gotten a little bit of a view of what the sky can look like and how much it can change as you travel from place to place. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like it. And if you enjoyed this kind of video, then do subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is the kind of video that I make. You can also read a little bit about this information by checking out my website, queevingscontent.ie. So that's it for this video, and hopefully I will see you next time.